All right, what's going on? Welcome to the channel. In this video, I am going to be breaking down how to properly go through a business credit application. So if you are a rookie, a noob, this video is for you. I'm going to walk you from A to Z, how to properly fill out a business credit application, some pitfalls to avoid, and some key steps along the way to help you improve your ability to get these approvals. Let's go. All right, so we are here on the US bank application. Now, quick disclaimer, every single business credit application is going to be slightly different, but as long as you understand kind of like the framework of the questions that they're asking, then you're going to essentially be able to reverse engineer it and get those approvals that you're looking for. So follow along with me. It doesn't have to be US Bank, but again, listen to how I'm breaking this down and the thought process behind how these applications are geared. So the first piece to this application is going to be the business information. So we talk a lot about business structure on the channel. If you haven't checked out those topics, definitely check them out. So for the purpose of this example, we are going to be using a single member LLC. Now on here, you're going to see where it says corporation, partnership, sole proprietorship, single member, LLC, government, trust. Whatever applies to you, that's what you're going to put here. So if you're a sole proprietor, you're going to put sole proprietor. If you are a multi-member LLC, you're going to put LLC. In this case, we're a single member LLC, assuming we're a brand spanking new business. Now, where it says employer identification number, you don't want to put, again, I repeat, you don't want to put your social here. And another mistake that I see is people end up putting their BIN number, which is an Experian identifier number that you get from Experian Business. And they also end up putting their DUNS number, which comes from Dun & Bradstreet. And so you don't want to put that here. You only want to put your employer identification number, which if up to this point, you should already have when you set up your business. This is the number that gets issued directly from the IRS. That's gonna go here, which I'm gonna be filling out here in just a second. Now your legal business name, this is exactly how it reads in the IRS and with the Secretary of State in your business. So I'll give you an example. If your business is, let's say, ABC LLC, but over on the Secretary of State, it says ABC Limited Liability Company, you want that back end to say the same thing, limited liability company. Just having that one change can actually get your application flagged and denied altogether. If your name isn't abbreviations, and let's say it's, I'll give you an example. Let's say it's Irv and let's say Friends LLC, then that's what I would say. Don't hyphenate it. Don't make it shorter just because you want it to say exactly how it reads on any business legal docs. Same thing with the DBA. If you're not operating as a DBA, you don't have to worry about this. But if, let's say, it's Irvin Friends LLC, and then right here, I usually operate as, let's say, Irvin, just an example, DBA, just something different, right? Or Irvin, let's say Irvin Pros, and that's our DBA, that's what would go here. But other than that, if this doesn't apply to you, you could just go ahead and leave it blank, which is why it says optional on here. Now the business name, as it's going to appear on the card, this is going to be preference. Do you want it to be your business name, which that's what I prefer whenever I am applying for a business line of credit, or if I'm getting access to a business credit card, you can use your name, the owner, or you can use one of the owner's names. This right here, if we're using this example right here, which is Irvin Friends LLC, I would just go ahead and put it right here, Irvin Friends LLC. And then I would go down to where it says country that the business is formed. Now, this is important. If you are our neighbors and you're watching this from Canada, this is only going to apply for those of us that are here in the US. So I love you guys, but I get that question a lot. Hey, do you guys help out people in Canada? And right now we don't. So everything that we're doing in this video is solely for a business that's formed and operating here in the US. Now, the year that the business started, this is kind of like a trick question for some people, and I want you to be very clear on what this is. The year that the business started in the eyes of the IRS, in the eyes of the bank, is going to be the year that you opened up that LLC. And so I'll give you an example. If I have been selling shoes, let's say aftermarket, since 2015, but I didn't actually establish and open an LLC until this year, then the year that we're going to put on this application is going to be this year. So I'll give you an example. 2023 at the time of this recording, soon to be 2024. That would be the date that I would put. If it was 2019, then I would put 2019. Again, you could have been doing business this entire time, but they're talking about when you became legit and when your business became legal, which again, in this case, it's going to be when you filed it. Business phone number. If you've been watching our content for some time, then you'll know that getting access to a business phone number is going to be a game changer, especially when you're applying for business credit lines. If right now, though, let's say you don't have a business phone line, let's say that you don't have a personal phone, maybe through T-Mobile, and then you have like a second line, which is just your business line, and it's its own identifier, which in this case, it's its own phone number, then you can just go ahead and use that number. Now, this does, again, full disclosure, this does lower the grade of the application, meaning a bank is going to see your business more as a noob or as a beginner type of business if you don't have that differentiator between a personal line and a business line. But you got to work with what you have. Now, if you do want to put a pause to this and not apply just yet, I would recommend that before you actually submit this application, because it's going to increase your approval odds if you actually do have a business phone line. You can do this with your phone carrier, or you can go ahead and go to maybe websites like Freedom Voice. I don't recommend Google My Number. I don't recommend Google Voice, because those are cheap lines that the banks actually disregard as legitimate numbers. So just a heads up on that. And then lastly, before we head out to the next section, is annual business revenue. Now, key thing here, because a lot of people read through this a little bit too quickly, is notice what it says. It says before deductions, what's your total revenue? Not your net. So if your top line, let's say, is 100K, and after expenses, you're at 60K, they're not asking you after marketing expenses, after paying out contractors. So the number that you would put on there would be 100K. Now, if you're wondering, can I apply for a business credit line even if I don't have any revenue just yet? The answer is yes. You're going to do what's called an annual revenue projection. And so one of the ways that I like to teach it to my clients is you're going to take a look at your area of where you're actually operating your business. So let's say that I'm running a landscaping business in the middle of Orange County here in Orlando, Florida, right? I like to go on things like Glassdoor. I like to just flat out Google, okay, what's the salary like out here? Or better yet, what is the rating, or rather the average of how much a landscaping company does out here in Orlando? And so there's two methods that you can use. You can either use the state method, or what I like to do is I like to use the local method, which is either specific to a zip code or specific to a city, because the number that you're going to get in your specific town is going to be totally different and going to be totally skewed from maybe a national average. Now, you can use a national average on here. So if the national average is, let's say, $60,000 for a landscaping company in their first year, you can use that. But again, if that number is going to be maybe a little bit higher, in my opinion, that's always helped the application out a little bit more. So if I'm in Cali, I'm going to maybe inch my way a little bit more to the higher side, because obviously it's going to be on the higher side of the spectrum, because obviously cost of living is just different for maybe somebody living in the middle of Minnesota. So again, that's the number that I would put here. For the purpose of this application, we are going to put $250,000. Again, I'm using this as an example. This is in no way, shape, or form what you should be putting on your application. These are your projections. All right, so the next piece here is still on the business info, and this is specific to the physical address. Now, there's two things that you can do here. If you have a virtual office address, you can use that right here. If you have a brick and mortar address, then obviously it'll be your brick and mortar address. If you have a home address, it'll be considered a home-based business. So a lot of people ask, can I use my home address as the physical address for my business? If you're running it out of your house, you can 100% do that. Now, keep in mind, the information that you're putting on here is, again, the exact information that you already have on file with the Secretary of State. It's already what you already have on file, maybe on your company website. So you don't want to have something totally skewed. If, let's say, you operate your business from your house, but then all of a sudden you have a virtual office address. You're going to want to use what they have on file for you at the state level, which is what you're going to be putting here. Now, if, like, the second part of this is if you have any additional addresses, you can do that here. So if maybe you have like a third-party address that you prefer to receive mail to, you would drop that here. So I'll give you the example. I have a physical address that's, let's say, in Orlando, but I prefer to receive my mail in maybe a separate property in Tampa. Just as a random example, you can do that here. But if you just wanted to keep everything cleaner, you would just go ahead and do the physical address is also where you receive the mailing address. The one place where this would make sense to do it this way is if you have a business that you live in one state or maybe 2-3 hours away from where that office is, and you conduct business in that area, but you live, again, in a different location. So if I'm in Orlando, but my business is in Georgia, then at that point, I would put the business address, physical address is Georgia, and then mailing address would be here in Orlando. So I'm gonna fill this part out right here, and then I'll see you in the next section. Okay, this is the part right here that gets a lot of people tripped up, and so I really wanna make sure that I take my time with this. What industry most closely fits your business? Depending on the application that you do, if you go to, let's say, Chase has like a 3-bracket system, which I actually made a separate video running through an application. I just wanted to make an updated version, which is what you're looking at right now. But they have a kind of like a 3-bracket system, which is the industry, the category, and then like the subcategory, right? With US Bank and with other applications, they're going to sometimes just ask you, hey, do you know the NAICS code off the top of your head? Or you can just type it in, which in this case is what we're going to be doing. So let's say that I do consulting. I can just go ahead and type this in. You can start typing it in and it'll generate it for you. Now you wanna, remember, pick the one that best fits your business. And so if I am doing, let's say, general consulting and business management, I would go this route. If I am maybe an agency and I do marketing for a client, I would take this route. Let's say that you do construction. Again, what I'll do is I'll do view more results so that way we can kind of open this up, view more results, and you can start seeing all the subcategories inside of what they classify as construction. Because again, you have construction, but what type of construction is it? Is it construction machinery manufacturing? Is it highway and street and bridge construction? Is it industrial building construction? And so get specific with it. Again, for the purpose of this example, let's say that we do right here. New single family housing construction except for sale builders. I want you to think of this kind of like your mom and pop style builders, or if you're a general contractor, this is typically what we'll see. The other route that you can take is other construction material merchant wholesalers. I mean, that's a little bit more on the wholesaling side, but that's another route that we've seen more so on the construction. But again, for the purpose of the example, and I can't stress this enough, you want to pick the one that's going to best suit you. Don't just pick something because I'm picking it. I'm walking you through this application, because last time I did this video, people were saying, well, I did exactly what you put on there. I'm like, yeah, dude, but it's supposed to be your business, not mine. So now let's get into the next section. And this is going to be the owner or the owners that are applying on behalf of the business. Now, pro tip here is if you are over a 25% owner for most banks, you're going to be able to apply for business credit lines on behalf of the business. Now, every bank has their own rules. Some go as low as 20, some want you to be closer to 35, 40%. Good rule of thumb is 25%. You can always double check with the bank. But if it's you and maybe a partner, see, okay, are they 50-50? Cool, either one of us can apply for this thing. I always say go with the person that has the better credit, because that's known as a credit partner method. And that's going to help get you far more approvals than maybe using the partner that has the 600 credit score. And so if I have a partner with the 780, put them on the application. You may want to kind of sit this one on the sidelines. So just a FYI. This will be your contact information on here. First name, middle name, if you have one, last name. This is important. Like the suffixes are super important. I've seen clients get denied because they've left the junior out. I've seen clients get denied because they leave the senior out. I've also seen clients get denied. This is sometimes a little bit more for the newlyweds, is if you just started a business and you happen to have gotten married, or you didn't change your last name and you took someone else's last name, then what ends up happening is that the system in that state still has, like the driver's license, the DMV still has your OG name. The Social Security office still has your OG name. Change it everywhere and then use what's on your license or use what's on your passport once you've actually updated it on the application, because if not, it'll just get kicked back. This will be your personal email address, and this will be your own personal cell phone. I'm gonna fill this out, and then I will see you in the next screen. All right, moving on to the next part of the application. If you're keeping tallies and keeping score on this thing, we first moved into the business information, like the business address, the business name, business phone number. We're now moving through the owner's information. And so we're continuing on with the personal owner's information. This is going to be your date of birth, your SSN, which is your social security number, or your ITIN. That's going to go here. And then the address. Now you can click here. My home address is the same as the physical business address. You can totally do that. Just keep in mind that depending on the address that you put here, if you get approved for the business credit card, or if they have to reach you, that's where they're going to be sending the mail to. So even if you, let's say, click Go Digital, you still got to receive that card somewhere. And so what I like to do is I like to have my home address for them to have on file, even if it's maybe in a separate state. So just a heads up, doesn't affect the application as long as everything is structured correctly. You can still apply. If you live in another state, but your business is maybe structured outside of where you currently live, you can set it up that way. So this is, again, it's going to be your date of birth, your social, your home address, and then your personal income. This is important. This is going to be alimony, child support, or separate maintenance income needed, not be revealed if you do not wish to have it considered as a basis for repaying this obligation. Now, one more thing that I wanted to mention, that if you don't want to include that, you don't have to. But the total annual income, if you live with someone in a household, it can be combined. And so if you have a spouse, husband, wife, you guys are able to combine your income, especially if you're filing joint on your taxes. And so if husband makes 100, wife makes 100, you can put 200 on the application. If wife makes 100, husband makes 80, you could put 180. If it's just you writing solo, then it's just whatever you're reporting on your taxes. So this is going to be your personal total annual income. And then deposits that go into other financial institutions, they're essentially asking you for your liquidity. This is also important. So depending on how much money you have in money markets, in your savings or in checking accounts, again, with other banks, they want to know that. So if I have another account with, let's say, Chase and TD Bank, Chase, I have $15,000, whether on the personal or on the business side, and TD Bank, I have another 5K. On here, I would put $20,000 as an example. And let's say that right now I'm making $150,000 in income, in annual income total, I would put 150 on there. That's how this would break down. I'm gonna go up here, fill the rest of this out, and then I will see you in the next section. All right, moving on to the type of business owner that you are. I'm gonna open this up. Are you an owner operator? Are you a CEO, which is a chief executive officer? Are you a CFO, chief financial officer? Are you a COO? A chief operating officer, general manager, managing member. Keep in mind, depending on your role in the company and how you're structured, that's what you're going to select on here. And so oftentimes, if you have no idea how you set it up, and hopefully you do, you can just go ahead and call up your registered agents, or you can just go ahead and pop up your ZenBiz to see how they have you categorized in the state. In most instances, it's going to be owner proprietor. That's what's 95% of us are going to be, unless you have something else that you maybe go by, like the CEO, or maybe you're a managing member. Because remember, there's two different ways that you can manage an LLC. You can be a managing member, or you can be member managed. So just a heads up on that. But yeah, going back to it, we'll just go ahead and do owner proprietor just for the purpose of this example. And then, do I want employee cards? This is awesome, like an awesome feature. You may not need this just yet, especially if you're just starting out. But ultimately what you can do with this is, let's say, especially as you start scaling up, is you start to take on more projects, and now you have more team members, and you really want to organize how those expenses are being paid for. You can go ahead and have, let's say, 2 cards, virtual cards, or really in this case, physical cards, get created that go out to those team members. That, let's say, one team member is only in charge of marketing, and then you have your second team member and they're only in charge of maybe going out and buying supplies for the office to continue to expand it. And so you now have those 2 accounts, and it's all funneling straight into this one account, which makes itemizing expenses and deductions a heck of a lot easier, not just for you, but for your CPA as well. For this right now, I'm going to put no thanks. We're turning the corner here. And then, would you be interested in balance transfers? If you have no idea what balance transfers are, this is when you are able to take an expense or a credit balance from one credit line over and transfer it to a new credit line. Now, the cool thing about business credit cards like this is that if you have, let's say, a credit line that's paying 29% interest, which is why this is created, you're able to transfer, let's say, $20,000 of that debt over into your new card if you get approved for, let's say, that much. And you now have a 0% interest. So now all the payments that you're making on the new balance is essentially all principal payments, which is how you start paying down some of that debt a heck of a lot faster. So would you be interested in a balance transfer? Again, for right now, I'm going to put no. So the next screen that you're going to be seeing on your side is to confirm, to make sure that all the information that you put on the application is accurate. So this is a good time to double check. Take your time with this. Make sure that your name is spelled right. Make sure that there's no typos. Make sure that there's no extra numbers in the business address. You want to click next. And once you get to the final screen, you are going to see where it says submit application. You are essentially done. Once you submit the application, at that point, you are either going to get one of three things. You're going to get denied, you're going to get held for review, or you are going to get approved. Let me know down in the comments if you follow along with me what you got on the application. If you've been having issues getting approved for business credit lines, let me know what the biggest issue's been, what type of business you are involved in, so that we can continue to make content around that, helping you get your business to the next level this year by leveraging more capital. Until next time, everyone, I will see you in the next video.